Hi, Jacqueline Coates for Paint Blooms. I'd like to have a word with you about backgrounds. Backgrounds sound like they're a simple thing to do. You just put something in the background and surely it's dealt with. However, there's a few things that come to mind that I can give you some great advice on. For example, see this painting here, we've got loads of texture. So in this instance, it was great to have a background sitting behind that had no detail in it. And it was in neutral colour that didn't compete with the very subtle colours of this sheep. This is a painting by Erin Fitzgerald, one of my students in the MMFA program. Isn't it a cutie? She actually lives on a farm, so that's a great subject matter for her to paint, along with other things that she loves to do. So yeah, neutral colours, we didn't want something to overwhelm it, okay? So that one worked really well. She could have gone with other shades of that. On the pears, we want the drama and the interest to be on the pears themselves. So what we've got here is a very neutral background, but it's got a bit of warmth to it. Something like this, you can see, would have been, too cold for that. It just wouldn't have looked lovely. So this is more like a cafe latte colour. The colours that we've used to make this are a medium grey, a raw umber, and probably a little bit of yellow ochre and some flesh or peach colour in it. And then it's just been put in pretty roughly at this stage, but it needs to go back in to a richer level soon. This has been kept on very neutral. This is picking up a little bit of the colour from the pears and the shadows on the tablecloth, a little bit of blue here and there, just enough to keep the interest and to keep it looking good. Over here with the over here on the cherries, there's quite a lot happening. There's stalks, there's leaves, there's a sense of light and sky coming through. But the thing about the background is it's still staying in the background, and that's exactly what we want. We don't want the background to compete in texture with the cherries. Otherwise we'll have a conflict and we won't know which one to look at. If I painted in loads of detail into that leaf, what would happen is it would pull it forward in space. It would be as though it was sitting, in around the same space as what the cherry is. And that might be okay for a little bit of it, but we certainly don't want the whole lot doing that because we want the interest to be on here. Let's go through here and talk about backgrounds here. The background on these pears with the turquoise colour, you can see I've softened off this edge. So, there's a crisp edge here because it's in the foreground, but I've just let that disappear into the background space a bit because it's really going quite away from us. And the detail at that stage isn't so interesting to us. I want it to disappear. If I put a crisp edge, it draws our attention to it again. So I've just softened it off so we don't have to deal too much with it. On this one, I originally had a very dark background. It was a bluish black background, and I decided that I wanted to be a lot softer and a lot prettier. So I used pale powder blue with medium grey and a bit of white, and I just brushed it in. There's a little bit of texture in there, and I decided to leave it. I quite like it. It's not overwhelming to the rest of it. It's so soft that you can barely notice it, and the cream rose is still winning. So backgrounds, you do want to keep them in the background. You don't want them fighting with the detail in your painting. That's the most important thing. You can use softened edges, so when you put the paint down and you've got the two colours, just get your brush and soften between the edge with not too much paint on the brush and some gloss medium. Think about the colour that you're using. Make it complementary to everything else you're using. Yes, that would be a good idea. Black on its own is too cold. You need to add a little tint of something to it. You'll find it when you have it up against all the colours, black on its own just has a coldness about it. So in the past, I've either added, depending on what effect I want, if I want it to be warmer, I've added a little bit of red, a tiny bit of red to it, and it gives it a slightly burgundy black feel. Or I've added very, very dark blue, like Prussian blue to the black to get it to be cooler and to sit back in space. I've also used green in my black to give the sense that it's a greenish black that we're disappearing things into, particularly if I've got cream roses and the leaves are softened off and they're disappearing into that greenish black background. And it just makes the painting so much richer, and it's very, very easy to do. So I hope you've enjoyed my background tips. They make a huge difference.